Hi, I'm Micah Clark. We're back for the second half of our interview with David Smith of the Illinois Family Institute. And what I hope you'll see this week as well as you did last week is that there's some strong battles going on in Illinois and there's some good things happening there. Again, if you have family who live in Illinois, I'd encourage you to connect them or send them to the Illinois Family Institute. David's a dynamic person, as you can see, and gave us a great interview last week, and this one's just as good. So I hope you enjoy joining the second half of our interview with David Smith of the Illinois Family Institute. Well, David, let me shift gears. I know you probably have legislation on this. I'm not positive of it, but I'm guessing you probably have a lot of the LGBT XYZ plus times alphabet crowd pushing things
MVP
in your
coming
state.
soon. Yep.
Yeah. What's going on in Illinois on that front?
Well, we have a couple bills that are really troubling regarding bathrooms. We have a bill that would make co-ed bathrooms mandatory for large venues. So, like, music theater, soccer stadiums, baseball stadiums, that kind of a thing. So, men and women could go into the same ones. The problem is, that is going to be morphed into a greater and greater how do I want to phrase that? It's a slippery slope. It will continue to grow. It won't be limited just to the large venues, but think about even college campuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many of our college campuses will decide to go co-ed bathrooms, right? Then we have another bill also that is going to mandate female hygiene products in men's bathrooms. In men's bathrooms. And here's the kicker, guys. It gets worse. Okay, so if that's not lunacy enough, they're going to mandate that the business pay for and keep it stocked. And so why would any woman in her right mind, and of course not Christians, not go into these local businesses, clean out the tampons, clean out the hygiene products, and bring them home to use for their own personal use, not have to pay for them anymore? Well, the government is mandating that these be paid for and given away for free in men's bathrooms. In men's bathrooms. Because, as one lawmaker said, men may need them too.
Gosh. David, is this creeping into the schools too for school bathroom safety, for safety
Yes,
of
it
girls?
is. It's already there. It's already there. Last year, they actually passed a bill on that as well, from sixth grade up. All right. So it's not in our little kids yet, but it's in sixth grade and above. It's already been passed and mandated. So it's just reason 1,112 to get your kids out of government schools.
David, we had a big issue this year in Indiana, and we succeeded. And I know several states are doing this too, which would try to remove the pornographic, manner harmful to minors, sexually explicit literature and comic books and stuff that are in schools and school libraries. Has that issue come up in Illinois? I know it's come up in a lot of states. What's happening in Illinois? I know you've probably got the books there, but has it come up legislatively?
Um, it's come up repeatedly over the years, but has never ever gained traction. Even filtering our internet in public schools and libraries. So in Illinois, I don't know if Indiana has this, but there is an immunity clause for our librarians and our teachers for harmful to minor material.
Yeah,
So they can hand out stuff that you and I would get arrested for
exactly.
and charged with grooming or sexual perversion or whatever. They can hand this out in their classrooms without a problem. And that's why they're able to show or teach perfectly normal and other stuff in our classrooms. It's horrific. And we've gone after it multiple times. We've passed the House on occasions. We've passed the Senate on different occasions. But we've never been able to put the two together and get it sent to the governor.
Well, it took us 4 years to get it done. I pray that you can, because parents are really concerned about this issue. I think with COVID, when kids went virtual and they started seeing stuff like furries in the classroom and the CRT stuff and the books that these kids are reading. And one thing I've noticed I think it also points back to what's going on in our college campuses in the education schools, because
Yes.
it's not so much your 40 or 50-year-old school teachers who are pushing this. It's the young 20s and 30s who have been indoctrinated to push LGBT, sexualizing children, grooming children, and it's a real problem with the teachers coming out of colleges and going into our schools to indoctrinate children.
That's absolutely right. So you guys were able to overturn the immunity
What
for,
we did for the schools, we tried to get it for the libraries. We couldn't. We got it for school libraries, and but the bill got
Mike,
watered down. But it's still a good bill, and we
most
got it through.
most people don't realize that the ALA, which is the American Library
Yes.
Association, headquartered in Chicago, is as radically liberal as the ACLU, if not more so. In fact, the ALA has a Bill of Rights for library patrons, which states that anyone of any age should have access to any material.
Hmm.
And as parents, all three of us know, that does not go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
That does not play.
during the testimony on our bill, it didn't take long before I realized there's some people out there who are teaching kids, in particular librarians, who frankly shouldn't be within a mile of a child
Right.
with the ideologies they hold. I mean, the librarians, not all of them, but the ones who came down and testified, are extremely radical on what they want kids to see. And this stuff, I just yesterday I had a meeting with a school board member. She showed me some books, and I wouldn't show that to my wife, let alone my 20-year-old son or 22-year-old daughter. It's it's crazy what, and it's graphic. A lot of these are comic books with pornographic pictures in them, and our kids have access to this in the school where they are captive, where they are required by law to be. It's a little different with the public library. The parent can go in, the parent can choose to take the kid to their child to the public library, but they have to be in a school under law, and they're a captive audience there, and it's terrible what these kids are seeing.
It's terrible. And, nobody's making the connection. At least nobody in the media is making the connection. And our politicians seem oblivious to the connection. But a couple years ago, the Chicago Tribune did an expose showing that there were 520 sexual abuse cases of administrators or teachers in the Chicago public school and students, right? And this was over a 10-year period. So, guys, it's one a week. Think about that. One a week in our Chicago public schools. And it's not limited to Chicago. I guarantee you. And yet, we're allowing them to teach this stuff, hand out this grooming stuff. It's grooming. They're
Hmm.
grooming. And,
Yeah.
and just now we heard also about the scandal in the Catholic schools and the sexual abuse there. I have a guy that writes for us. His name is Thomas Hampson. He is a former investigator with the state of Illinois on this very issue, and he says it's worse in the public schools than it is in the Catholic schools, and yet the media is only focusing on what's going on in the Catholic schools instead of, look, there's a bigger problem out there
Hmm.
in our government schools.
Well, some of the materials I've seen, quite a few of them actually, are older men and homosexual acts being described with younger boys in these books. And if you tell kids, if the kids are reading about sexual activity, it's bad enough between children. But a lot of these books are involving older males or older males with younger females or older males with younger boys. That is grooming. That is opening up the idea that the sex age boundaries don't matter.
They
And
don't need to be dealing with these issues. They don't need to be taught this stuff. Let them
Mhm.
be kids. Let them be children. Teach and focus. The reason taxpayers fund our local schools: reading, writing, arithmetic, science, history. Let's stick with the core curriculum
Yep.
and stop this other social engineering and perversion. Let the parents be parents. Let the churches be churches.
Yep.
This is um,
Well, in Indiana, I bet it's the same in Illinois. What they call the Nation's Report Card, the NAEP scores, National Association for
yes,
Education Progress.
yes.
At best, 40% of our kids in Indiana are proficient in math or reading. That means 60% are not proficient at fourth, eighth, or 12th grade,
It's the
and we're
same here.
focusing on this.
Yes.
We can't teach the majority of kids math and English well, and we're spending time on this junk.
Yeah, and it's a failure. So that, I mean that should be one of the primary reasons to get your kids out of government schools. Get them
Mm-hmm.
out. Get them out.
Yeah.
Get them into private Christian education. Do home education. You can train up your children better and teach them better. I mean that I can't emphasize that strong enough.
Well, David, one of the things that your organization does an outstanding job at is your resources that you have online, both your website and I think one of the greatest assets that a lot of people don't understand is your YouTube channel. You've had a
Thank
lot of great people that have come through your and done events for your organization that you have outstanding messages on there with really good details. People who've done a lot of research in these areas that are giving some really good facts. Tell us a little bit about where people can find those resources.
Yeah, Jeff, as an IT guy, you probably appreciate this. I'm looking to create our own video page, and I'm trying to. I don't have the resources, the funds right now because we need lots of memory.
Yeah.
Right now, our stuff are posted for free on YouTube, but I can't rest easy because they can turn off our channel at any time they want, and it doesn't come for free. Obviously, they put their ads up, whatever. So there's a cost to it, but we do have a robust channel with lots of material. Every year we have a worldview conference. All those videos are up there, all the sessions. We have 4 sessions every year. Every year we do a special forum on something. We have one coming up on religious liberty on June 1st. That will be up there. And then we have a guy named Monty Larrick, who used to work for Moody Bible Radio, WMBI in Chicago. He was their news guy, and so he's got the great voice, and he does great interviews with various people all the time. And so we have all that material up there as well. So yeah, it's very informative and eye-opening. And I would encourage people, just come and check out the worldview stuff. We've got things from I'm blanking on his name right now, but Dr. Rob Reno. We've had Dr. Everett Piper. We've had Dr. Erwin Lutzer a
Mm-hmm.
number of times actually. He's one of our favorite
Yeah.
go-to guys. He's now retired, but that's okay. He's still working.
Yeah.
He's 80-something years old, and he's still writing books and speaking publicly. So praise God for him. Anyway, there's a lot of good people, go-to people. We're not. It's not about us. It's about the issue.
Well, David, I can't help myself. I'm going to ask you one more policy question because you're so
Sure.
much fun, and this may not be a fun question, but John Quincy Adams said, "Victory is mine," or I'm sorry, "Duty is mine, victory is the Lord's." I
Amen.
know it doesn't really matter if you win or lose, you fight the good fight. But are there some victories you guys have seen recently in the legislature, either in killing bad bills or passing anything good in the People's Republic of Illinois?
Yeah, there are some bills that have stalled out in Springfield, and that is we do have a lobbyist down there.
Mhm.
And whenever we put out a call to action to fill out witness slips, our numbers always dwarf their numbers in opposition to what they're trying to do. But the message is not getting sent. The Democratic leadership is still pushing its agenda. And so it's funny, that quote also resonates with me because Dr. Lutzer, whenever he sees me, always reminds me, Dave, remember, the victory isn't ours. Our job is to remain faithful.
Right.
And so I appreciate that. We have a number of different things that we're trying to do in Illinois. Among them is calling kids out of government schools because they're in the indoctrination centers. And if we can start micro schools, private schools, schools in a box, there's something even called a forest school I just learned about. Anyway, there's so many options. And in Illinois, praise God, we still have lots of freedom to educate our children the way we want as parents. And there are no yet restrictions on that. And so we need to take advantage of that to educate the next generation. So parents, grandparents, church leaders, you got to consider this because they're being discipled by apostles of wokeism in our schools. It's time that Christians intentionally step up and disciple our children. And that's the only, the issues aren't really political that we face, they're cultural. And if
Mm-hmm.
we can get our hands on this and teach a biblical worldview to our kids so that they know they're being lied to by the culture, they know they're being lied to. Everybody's doing it, whether it comes to sex or drugs or rock and roll, any of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're being lied to. Don't buy the lies, but only if they're taught with a biblical worldview will they recognize these deceptive philosophies, as Paul says in First Timothy or Second Timothy, one of the Timothys.
Well, we have churches, David, all over Illinois, all over Indiana, who are very active on Sunday, maybe Wednesday, maybe another day of the week, but they have these empty buildings in a sense. And
Yes,
I've encouraged pastors. I'm going to say it again. If you've got a good church building, open it up to homeschool co-ops. Let them meet there.
yes,
Um,
yes.
use that building. We've got to get kids educated in worldview and things. And is homeschooling? I don't even know. Is homeschooling thriving in Illinois? Is it easy to homeschool there
Yeah,
still?
last weekend we had our Illinois Christian Home Educators Conference. It's not ours; it's another
Mm-hmm.
organization. But we have a display table, and we had more new people come to our table. A lot of times, I feel like we've been doing this for like 15 years now, where we've had a vending table at this conference, and it's almost like a reunion with a lot of our
Uh-huh.
people. This year, there was a lot of new people there,
Good.
and so I think the pandemic, the silver lining between the
Mm-hmm.
shutdown, a lot of people have woken up and said, "No, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to take control of
Yep.
what my kids are being taught." And my wife and I, when we first started 20 years ago or so homeschooling, our goal was more academic at first. We want to teach. We can do better for our kids in math, science, and reading than the government schools can. But then went to this conference and we heard about biblical training, character training. And, hey, look, if they don't know Jesus and want to live and work for him, what good is it if they're really good with math, science, and reading?
Yeah.
The main thing is character training, biblical training, loving the Lord, doing what he has called you to do. And of course, academics is a close second because you need to be prepared and equipped to do what the Lord has called you to do.
Right. Yep. Well, David, I want to thank you for joining us today. Speaking of your children, you have a son named Owen who could be in TV commercials. He is an adorable young
But
man. But how
maybe
many?
one day, maybe
Yeah,
one day. Yeah,
yeah.
he's
He,
3 years old. He's got Down syndrome, and he brightens everybody's day when they see him. Yeah, he's got the ministry of smiles, is what I've called it.
yes, yeah. Does it break your heart on a personal level, David, to know in Scandinavian countries and Iceland,
Oh,
Greenland, there are no Down syndrome kids because 80%, even now in America, I think 80% of kids, if they do a test when the mother's pregnant, they'll abort a Down syndrome child.
it breaks
How
my
does that
heart.
strike you?
It,
Yeah.
it breaks my heart because we don't understand what God is trying to do in our lives, right? So, we have a big family, and then we have this Down syndrome. Our last child is a Down syndrome kid. I laughingly said, "Well, the Lord saw we did so good with the first 7, He had to up the challenge with number 8." Well, that's tongue in cheek, it's funny, right? But there's some truth in that. The Lord is
Hmm.
saying, Dave, my wife, Mrs. Smith, I want you to learn some new lessons in raising. We want you to be more patient, kind, whatever. There's so many things we're learning already in 3 years
Yeah.
with this young man in our lives that we wouldn't have learned with the others.
It
It
reminds
breaks
me
my
of
heart.
one. It reminds me of a great book. And Jeff, I forget the guy's last name. I can't. Gary Thomas. Gary Thomas wrote a book called Sacred Marriage, and the subtitle was "What if God created marriage to make us holy more than to make us happy?" And that is because
That's
people
it.
want. I'm
That's it.
just. Yeah, it's like I'm not happy. I'm going to get divorced. Well, God gave us challenges in life to grow us, and I think you've got the blessing of Owen to make you more like Christ
Amen.
and to make you see his love for us.
Amen. That's right. That's right.
Well, David, I appreciate you. You do phenomenal work. I want to tell people if you have family in Illinois, please tell them about the Illinois Family Institute. And if you're up, even in Indiana, near Chicago area, hey, sign up for David's emails. I get them, and I live in Noblesville in the Indianapolis area. You do great work. My spiritual gift sometimes I think is plagiarism, and I've stolen a lot from you. So thank you for that. But you guys do great work.
I publish a lot of your stuff too, Micah. When it's when you report on polls and current trends, I can't put Indiana politics in IFI stuff, but yeah, I appreciate your take on stuff and calling my attention to stuff too. So it's a mutual admiration club.
Well, I'm glad you're there. You do great work. And again, as we close, tell our audience one more time how to sign up for your email, how to get involved with the Illinois Family Institute.
Yeah, so go to illinoisfamily.org and you can sign up. There's a button on there to the right that says sign up for emails, subscribe to our emails, and then you can subscribe to our prayer list, our newsletters, alerts, all those kind of things. So,
David, thank you for your time. I know you're very busy. I appreciate your time today. You're a blessing to me. You're a great friend to Jeff and I. And thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Keep up the fight.